I'm up.
How much for the car?
She's not for sale. I lost everything. It's personal.
Where'd you get that car?
What does it matter?
Nobody?
That nobody is John Wick.
Hey, John.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm not afraid of John Wick.
The movie opens with John Wick driving a car that crashes into a wall. Bloodied and injured, he staggers out of the truck, pressing a wound in his stomach. He pulls out his phone and watches a video of his wife, Helen, on the beach as he crawls to the side. John slouches and closes his eyes. A few days earlier, on a cloudy morning, John wakes up, haunted by flashbacks of Helen. He remembers them at dinner, sharing a kiss, and the heartbreaking moment when she faints in his arms. Next, John is by her hospital bed, kissing her forehead before the doctor silently walks out. In the following scene, John clutches a necklace and gets into his car, burdened by the loss of his wife to a fatal illness. The day of her funeral arrives, and everyone leaves while John remains standing over her grave. A man watches from a distance. After the ceremony, John's old friend Marcus approaches him, saying it's been a while, and asks how John is holding up. They chat briefly, and Marcus explains that he's just checking in on an old friend before saying goodbye and leaving.
It's been a while. How you holding up? Don't blame yourself. Just checking up on an old friend.
Later, John is at home cleaning up when the doorbell rings. He answers it to find a delivery woman, who asks him to sign some papers and hands him a package.
John Wick?
Yes.
Sign here, please.
Inside is a small dog. Ellen has left John a letter, explaining that she has accepted her death and wants him to love again, starting with the puppy. As John reads the letter, he begins to cry. He takes the dog out of its pen and notices its flower-adorned collar, realizing that Ellen had named the dog Daisy. John brings the dog a couple of sheets, but the dog refuses to get off the bed, so John gently lifts it and sets it on the floor. The next morning, the dog climbs onto the bed, wakes John up, and follows him around the house. John pours cornflakes for himself and the dog, telling her they're going to buy proper food soon. He bonds with the puppy, and they spend the day driving around in his vintage 1969 Ford Mustang. Along the way, he pulls up beside 3 Russian mobsters, including Yosef Tarasov, the son of crime boss Vigo Tarasov. Yosef approaches John's car, compliments it, and asks how much it costs. John replies that it's not for sale. Yosef, thinking John won't understand, insults him in Russian, saying, "Everything has a price, bitch." But John surprises him by responding in Russian, correcting him with, "Not this bitch," as Yosef was petting Daisy at the time. Yosef grows angry, but before he can react, one of his friends pulls him back and tells John to have a good day.
How much for the car?
She's not for sale.
Вы всего сука яйца.
А в этой, сука, нет.
Have good day, sir.
Later, John takes his car to an abandoned construction area and vents his frustration by drifting around. He narrowly avoids crashing into some trucks, stopping just in time. That night, as John gets ready for bed, Daisy needs to relieve herself, so he takes her downstairs. When they arrive, 2 shadowy guys stand in front of John while the third grabs a bat and whacks him in the head. While Daisy whimpers, the man begins to pound on John. One of the men attacks the dog and snaps her neck. One of the men asks to find the keys, and the other responds that he's found them. After taking the keys, the guy removes his disguise, revealing himself to be Yosef. He insults John and asks him to sleep well before knocking him out. Later, when John awakens, he walks up to his lifeless pet and lays next to it as he strokes her head. He buries the dog and then starts cleaning the mess in his house as memories of his wife and the attack from last night go through his head. Yosef drives John's Mustang to Aurelio's store. Yosef tells Aurelio that he needs some clean papers and a new number plate for the car, but Aurelio recognizes the car right away and demands to know where Yosef obtained it.
Yo, Aurelio, I want a new VIN number and some clean papers.
Where'd you get that car?
Yosef boasts about who he took the automobile from and how he murdered the dog of that guy. Aurelio tells him to get out of the shop, but Yosef responds that they own him. Aurelio responds that he does not work for him, but works with his father, and then hits Yosef in the face. One of Yosef's goons pulls out a gun and points it at Aurelio, but the other stops him from shooting. Yosef gets up and insults Aurelio and tells him that he will take his business someplace else.
Guess we'll be taking our business someplace else.
Later, John stops by the shop and inquires about the car. Aurelio replies that the car was here and that Yosef is Vigo's son. Vigo phones Aurelio later that night, inquiring why he struck Yosef. Aurelio just replies that because his son took John Wick's car and murdered his dog. In response, Vigo just says, "Oh." Vigo seems worried and goes down to his penthouse as one of his men congratulates him. But Vigo tells him that he wants to meet with his son. Meanwhile, John enters his basement with a sledgehammer and begins bashing the floor open. He is revealed to have been looking for a cache of weapons and gold coins. To address this problem, Vigo meets with Yosef at his house. He first hands Yosef a drink and tells him that he is wearing a nice jacket before he punches his kid in the stomach twice to scold him, reminding him of who he had just wronged. Vigo's henchman asks if he can leave, but Vigo orders him to stay. Yosef is then told by Vigo that John Wick used to be linked with him until he met Helen and chose to quit. John had a reputation as Baba Yaga, the boogeyman, or rather as the man who was summoned to assassinate the boogeyman.
We called him Baba Yaga. The boogeyman? Well, John wasn't exactly the boogeyman.
Vigo tells his son about the time he saw John Wick killed 3 men in a bar with a pencil and reminds Yosef just how dangerous John Wick is.
I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar.
When John wanted to retire and marry Helen, Vigo gave him an impossible task implied to involve multiple high-level assassinations in a short period. To Vigo's surprise, John succeeded, and his efforts were key in establishing the Tarasov Syndicate. Joseph tells his father that he can handle the situation and will finish the job, but his father tells him that John will come for him and that he can do nothing about it.
John will come for you because you can do nothing.
After warning Joseph of his impending doom, Vigo dials John's number in an attempt to rectify the situation, but John hangs up. That night, Vigo sends a team of 12 hitmen to John's house to kill him. John easily eliminates all of them, battling with the final few before stabbing the last one in the heart. The police officer comes to the front door and knocks. John addresses him by name and inquires whether there's been a noise complaint, to which the officer responds affirmatively. He inquires if John is back in the game, referring to the body that can be seen behind John. John claims that he's simply figuring things out.
Noise complaint. You, working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
The officer bids him farewell and departs to clean up the area and dispose of the dead. John summons an underworld cleanup team with whom he has previously worked. They appear to be aware that this will not be the last time they assist him. Vigo approaches Wick's buddy Marcus and offers him a $2 million contract to assassinate John Wick. He also tells his assistant, Avi, to put out a request for other people to fill the position. Marcus happily accepts the offer. John checks into the New York Continental Hotel, which caters exclusively to the criminal underworld and permits no assassinations on its premises, where he will remain for the duration of his business trip. Perkins is someone he recognizes. Winston, the manager and owner of the Continental, is another old buddy of John's. When John inquires, Winston informs him that Yosef is at a nightclub called Red Circle.
Yosef Tarasov. Where do I find him? You know the rules.
John enters the club where Yosef and his friends are having a good time. He meets an old acquaintance there and tells him to take the day off as the man thanks him. Yosef is enjoying a night of champagne and ladies in a luxurious Russian bathhouse when John murders one of his guys and approaches via the club's bottom floor. When they see John, he starts firing at them while Yosef flees. John kills every hitman in his way, but he loses Yosef in a getaway car as he departs. He returns to the Continental to get a gash in his side sewn up after being stabbed in the stomach by one of Vigo's guys with a bottle. The doctor warns John that if he strains himself too much, his sutures will RIP. John claims that the bourbon he purchased earlier would cover the painkiller portion of his rehabilitation. Marcus climbs to the roof of the building across the street late at night and sets his eyes on John, who is sleeping. He notices someone arriving via the mirror. He shoots a warning shot at John. Perkins starts firing at John, but he manages to avoid her. She informs him that if she violates the hotel's regulations and murders John for Vigo, he will give her $4 million. He struggles with Perkins until he has her in a headlock and offers her compassion in exchange for information. She informs John that Vigo stores the majority of his assets in a church basement. John knocks Perkins out and leaves her with Harry for one of their organization's gold coins. Perkins is shackled to a chair by Harry, who is unaware that she has dislocated her thumb and is slipping away. She exits the vehicle and covers Harry's face with a pillow before shooting him. John visits Vigo's hidden stockpile of cash and business documents in the chapel. Following the shooting of the other guards in the church, John compels the priest to lead him to the vault. He dismisses the ladies in the vault and sets fire to the entire structure. Vigo hears about the fire just as he is about to be trapped in a barrage of bullets from John. Despite killing the majority of Vigo's men, he is knocked unconscious when one SUV collides with another, pushing John to the ground. Vigo apprehends him and questions why he's gone to such lengths for vengeance over a car and a dog. Yosef took the puppy away from John, who claims it was a gift from his dead wife. He also warns Vigo that he has the option of handing Yosef over to him or dying with him. Vigo abandons him to his thugs, who suffocate him with a garbage bag. Marcus, on the other hand, is watching from the adjacent building and shoots one of the hitmen in the head, allowing John to take out the other. Only John is left alive as John pulls out his revolver and fires at Vigo's escape vehicle. Vigo is forced to inform John that Yosef is hidden at a Brooklyn safe house. Even though the safe house is secured by armed men, John kills them all and storms the property. He destroys all the getaway vehicles with bombs and then catches up to Yosef and puts a bullet in his stomach and then shoots him in the head. Perkins learns that John and Marcus have been in contact and informs Vigo, so Vigo sends his thugs to Marcus's house in retribution for Yosef's death and for failing to kill John. They thrash him there until Perkins arrives and fatally shoots him. Just as Vigo is about to leave the house, he calls John and tells him that he has killed his friend. Vigo then leaves for a helicopter that is going to take him away from the city. The plan is that John will come to Marcus's house and Perkins will ambush him. Perkins is summoned to a meeting with Winston, the proprietor of the Continental Hotel. While waiting for John to arrive at Marcus's house at the Bethesda Arcade in Central Park, she meets Winston and 4 other men. Winston informs her that she has disobeyed Continental's regulations and that her membership has been revoked. The 4 men put her to death. As Winston goes away, he runs across the same cleaner who assisted John in removing the assassin's remains from his home and gives him a few pennies. When John discovers Marcus's body, he sets out to assassinate Vigo. He spots Vigo and their man on the way to the chopper and attempts to slam his car into them. Vigo orders Abby to assassinate John, only for John's automobile to slam into him. Vigo tries to force John's car off the cliff, but he survives. The two then battle in the rain, hand to hand. Vigo tries to attack John, but John pulls the blade into himself to generate leverage and break Vigo's arm, then grabs the knife from his stomach and stabs Vigo in the neck. He abandons him to his fate. We return to the opening scene as John continues to bleed. He feels motivated to keep going. After seeing the video with Helen, he enters a dog shelter to treat his knife wound. He then adopts a pit bull puppy and brings him home with him. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and press the bell icon for more amazing videos. See you next time.